We're finally here. We're finally filming an updated brow routine. This is my #1 asked question all the time on my Instagram about my brows. How do I do them? What do I use? Everything. I get your DMs, I get your comments. I wanted to film this for you guys so badly. So here we are. We're going to be working on the brows. That's about it. So we're going to zoom in and get started on them, and I'll give you guys some tips and tricks and the best ways to achieve them. And I hope that it really solves some of your questions, because these are just, it's come with time how I figured this out, and I constantly am changing the way that I do them to make them A, easier, and B, more realistic. So I hope that this works out for you guys and you try it out for yourself and you do like it, because I think it's just such a pretty look, and especially for dramatic makeup and you kind of want to give a little bit of a softer romantic feel to the rest of the face, the brows, when they look like this, I think it really ties that together. So yeah, we'll jump right in. I'll zoom you in close to my eyeballs and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm going to zoom you guys in really soon and get started, but I just want to list the items that you'll need for this. I use a brow pomade, a Dipbrow from Anastasia. I'm the shade Ebony. You can try brow powder, but I would still probably get it wet so you can really get those defined strokes, and you'll be able to soften them later if you do want them to be a little bit less harsh. But to get the precision right, something creamy or wet or liquidy is best for this kind of step. Then I would do an angled brush that has a double end. You don't necessarily need the double end, but I find it so much easier. That way you're not swapping between two brushes, because this is going to really help you comb through the brow product and make it softer for you. And then having something really, like, see how skinny my brush is? It's so skinny. This is the Anastasia number 12 brush. This is my second one. I have bought this again because I love this freaking brush. It is so fucking good. Seriously. I'll always pinch the product into the brush so that it is as freaking thin as I can get it, because when you are trying to manipulate the brush strokes, that's where it gets a little tricky, is when the brush is too wide. So definitely a brush like this. You can probably find other ones. I totally have not found one that is as skinny as this, but you know, to each his own. And then I would recommend a brow gel. I love the Eyeko Brow Gel. This one is tinted, and I feel that it makes my hairs look a little bit bushier and a little bit more defined, and that way it kind of like will hold the hairs in place, because we're trying to make hairs look like they belong there. So those are definitely the products you'll need, but let's get started and I'll zoom you guys in. Okay, so I already have my eyeshadow on. I like to put my eyeshadow on first when I'm doing this, because if you do your brows before your eyeshadow with this technique, when you're blending into the crease, it can tend to wipe away the strokes and make them look too muddy. So if you're someone who really likes to do their brows first, I would really try to do that after you do your eyeshadow, because I feel like you get a crisper look. For people who like to clean up under their brow, then it doesn't really matter. You can do it however you want, but for my technique, I don't like to clean it up with concealer, because I feel like if it's a little imperfect, that's when it looks really nice. So I'm going to get started. I have my Dipbrow, and I like to work from the cap, so I'll always put a little bit of product into the cap. If your Dipbrow is not new and it's kind of old, I feel like it works a lot better if you're using some setting spray in the cap so that it thins it down. Mine is really new, so it's at that nice creamy state, but if you have an old one, and when I had an old one, I used just a little bit of setting spray. So I'm going to start on this brow. This is always my easiest brow, and I'm just going to comb it up and over. And you see I have all these little stray hairs. That doesn't bother me. I really think that your brow looks really natural when it has like these little unkempt hairs, and that's just something I like. But of course you can tweeze away the shape that you want, but since I got like 5 brow hairs, I'll hold on to every brow hair I can get. So I like to start right at the arch and just start my first stroke. Okay, then I'll go on and do my next one, and they're going to be a little bit shorter than each other because you want it to kind of cascade down. But what I've been doing recently is actually, instead of going this way first, I'll go this way first, and I feel like it makes it a world of easier. because I obviously have more brow hair here. So it's a little bit easier to get my shape down. For anyone who has fine brows and they fill in their brows a lot, you know that this is a time-consuming process. This is no different. This is still a time-consuming process. And right now the strokes look really bold, but they're kind of like your outline. Think of them as your outline of how the structure is going to be. And don't worry too much. Just try to get them placed where you want them. Okay, then you can take a little less product and go in between these large strokes. And just kind of feather in a little bit of light product. That way they don't look so bold of strokes and so fake. And this makes it so much easier to go down. So then we're going to just start to make these little curved strokes as they go down. And again, you can leave space between the strokes. We can go back. It's hard to talk and do this at the same time. So I like to keep a short brow. So we're getting almost to the end, and I'll probably just put like another stroke here, but have it meet up with the last one I just did. And from here you can kind of see where you want to touch up. So you can see that there's kind of like this weird bridge here. That means that I have to elongate this one and that one to kind of meet. And then I want to kind of like fill in little spaces here. And then I also want it to kind of come out a little bit more here. So it's a little bit fatter and it looks a little bit more in tune with each other. But that's kind of it. I'll probably throw a few more strokes at the front. Very pale strokes. And then I'll actually go in where I have the least amount of brow hair and get it a little bit darker, put a little extra product there. Because when I take photos, that's always what seems to get the lightest, or look the lightest. It's all about touching up from here on out, really. And I'm pretty cool with that. I'm going to go through with my brow gel and just spike all the hairs up in the front. Try to not glob a lot of product on. That's the one thing about this brow gel, is it does tend to come out with a lot of product on the brush. And then just taper it down. I'm going to do the next one and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is both brows on. I'm about to just set the other one with brow gel. You can see it's not a huge difference between the two, but it does help keep them in place, which is pretty important. Especially when you have fine hair. They can just like splay all over the place. And you want to comb them into the shape that you've created. One of the things that I would really recommend for someone trying this technique is to avoid a shimmery brow bone, because especially when you're doing your eyeshadow first and the brow bone gets into your brow hair, if you don't want a shimmery brow, it can kind of give away the effect that these are like natural, which I mean, I don't mind. Like I had a look on the other day where it was peeking through and I thought that looked really nice, But if you're going for a kind of like a natural look, you might not like that coming through. You can always place the shimmer once you finish the brow very delicately underneath. But again, you don't want it to wipe away any of the strokes, so that's why I would just maybe avoid doing a shimmery brow bone often. A matte brow bone is always the easiest way to make this look very like bushy and realistic. So yeah, that's kind of like my tips and tricks on this. I will zoom out and give you guys my final kind of gist of what's going on here. Okay, so I finished with the rest of my face, just added some frex and some blush and mascara and stuff. So that is kind of it, you guys. I think this is a great technique for anyone who has very fair eyebrows and dark hair and they want to wear dramatic eye makeup, but they don't feel comfortable with a very bold brow. Like I used to rock the bold brow sculpted with a concealer underneath for so long and I still really love that look, but for my style of makeup, I feel like this suits it a little bit better, a little bit more fashion forward. This is also great for anyone who is thinking about getting a microbladed brow. I think that this is a really good way to feel it out and see if you like having these like strokes in your brow, because that's really what microblading looks like. I've had plenty of people come up to me who are savvy and they know that this could be microblading, and they always ask me like where I got them done, and I think it's so interesting that that can pass as that. I think it's really cool. And a lot of people who really aren't in the know or not big makeup people, they think that my brows are real. And I think it's really cool to see that you can really use makeup to make these things look like they're not. And I am not someone who wants to get microblading done. I do really like my regular brows when I don't have makeup on. I think I would look a little bit weird if when I don't wear makeup and I had like microblading. So, you know, it's really just preference. It's really just about transformation, and it's really just about making your makeup look as good as you want it to look. Yeah. So that's kind of it. That's all I got for you guys. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments below. This link will always be on my Instagram. I'm going to do like a permanent story and have the link to the video there. So hopefully you guys will find this easily. Yeah, that's about it. Subscribe before you leave. Okay? I love you. Bye.